friends. Today I am going to show you how to do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. I can't remember if I showed you guys this once or not. I know that I've showed you a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, but for this journal that I made, you've already seen the video of this journal. This was my Bridgerton journal, and so I'm recording this as I am putting it in the cover, but I released all the other videos prior to this one. But in case you wanted to know how to do a 5-hole stitch, I figured I'd go ahead and do it on camera for you. So one thing that you can see that I did is I've kind of, made myself a map. And I have 3 signatures. And so what I did is I used a ruler and I measured out, my spine is 3 3/4 inch spine. So I found where the middle of it is. And then I know that because my signature, this signature is empty, it doesn't even have the ephemera in it yet, and you can see it's pretty thick signature. With the ephemera, it's quite a bit larger. It's about like this. So I need as much space as I can between the signatures. So I used my ruler to figure out how far out could I go. And this is about, actually, let me tell you, how far out did I go? I think it's 1 inch, but let me see. Let me see how I want to figure this out here. All right. So I went 1/4 inch in on each side, and then there is 1 1/4 inch in between each signature. And I needed all of that space, like I said, because the signatures are really, really fat. So I made myself what I'm calling is a little map. So this is going to be my center, and then this will be the last signature. This will be the first signature, this will be the second, and this will be the last. And everywhere where you see an X is where I'll be punching a hole into the spine of this book. Now, before we do that, let me just show you. What I will end up doing is, this is my first signature. I'm going to go in and I'm going to make sure the papers are where I want them. So I want them like evenly placed. I hope that makes sense. But as you can see, this piece of paper is shorter than the signature, or this piece of paper is shorter than this one, right? So I've got it kind of placed evenly. And then here I go with another one of the tall ones. And the music paper is about the same, so that can pretty much stay where it is. And then this is about the same. Now this I'm going to turn into a pocket, but I can't do it until it's sewn in. So I've written myself a note here reminding myself that this is going to become a big pocket. And I'm going to end up sliding a small book into it. Actually, I'll show you that book real quick if I can find it. Oh yeah, here it is. So I created, with some of my extra ephemera, I created this additional little book with all these little tidbits in it, and that is going to end up sliding into this. But we can't create the pocket until we get this sewn in. Once this is sewn in, then I will glue this edge, and then we'll have a nice big pocket. So this is the center of the signature. And if you see this is a piece of paper that I have glued all the way down, and I did that because right here I have a brad, and I did not want the brad to catch on any papers from that little booklet, so I covered it with this paper, and it's sealed really well all the way around all the edges. All right, so we've got all of our pages nice and even in here the way we want. So what we're going to do now is we have to make sure that they are all up against each other right here. And we can see, let me make sure that you can see that they are. See how they're just, I'm pushing them down so that they're all up against each other. It's nice and tight. So what I'm going to do so that the papers do not shift or move, because they're exactly where I want them, I'm going to use this clothespin. Now you can use any kind of clip you want. I just happen to have these clothespins handy. I like using clothespins, and so that's what I'm using. But any clip will work perfectly fine. I've seen people use paper clips, and I've seen the bullnose clips, so you know, whatever you have is fine. As a matter of fact, I have a few bullnose clips here in my little kit that I got. So let me, just for extra insurance, I can put this here. If I can get it up and over all the pretty laces and such. Okay. So, all right, so now we're pretty certain that our papers are not going to move and they're where we want them. Okay, before we move forward, let's go ahead and cut our thread. Now I have a box of thread, and I purchased these wax threads on Amazon. I prefer to work with the wax threads. So like I said, I purchased a little variety pack on Amazon, so I have all sorts of colors. I also have my awl, and I believe that this came with the threads, but I'm not 100% sure. It was not expensive. I also got this on Amazon, and it's got a nice point on it. Hopefully you can see that. And it goes through just about anything. And then I also have a nice big needle. And I actually could use one a little bit smaller than this, but this works for me. I had it in my sewing stash. So it works, so that's what I use. Now, let me put these aside. We'll get to that later. Let's choose the thread. I'm torn. Let's see. It's going to be, I'm going to use one of these three. So let's check them out. I could use the white, but let's look at the cover real quick. So this is the inside of the cover, and these are my thread choices. There is a lot of blue in the show Bridgerton, and I thought maybe I would like the blue, but it's really kind of dark. Let's see. There's the blue. Here's the turquoise, which actually that looks pretty nice. And then here's the gray. And the gray actually looks really nice too. And here is the white. And the white looks good too, of course. All right, I was really tempted to use the white, but I'm gonna be daring and I'm gonna go with the gray. And I'm gonna hope that it goes really nicely with the center of my signatures. Let's take a quick peek inside of this one. The center of this one is right here. Oh yeah, I think it'll be fine with that. Let's see. Oh yeah, that'll be fine. And then another signature is here. Let me take a look inside. Yeah, pink and gray always looks good together. So yeah, let's go with that. So here's how you want to measure your thread. You do 3 lengths of your pages. So there's 1, 2, 3. 3 always gives enough. If you want a little extra, you can cut a little extra, and then you know that you'll have plenty of space to add a dangle or, you know, something like that if you'd like to. I have 3 signatures, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut my threads now. All right, before we get started sewing, we're going to go ahead and thread our needle, and it's super easy. Now, the eye of my needle is huge. My thread has no problem fitting through there, as you can see how easy that was. But if yours is smaller, you can always take anything really. I usually, if I was going to do it, as you can see, I don't need to do it, but you could take your jewelry needle nose pliers and flatten it out. You could even flatten it out just with your fingers if you had to, and then it will slide right through the eye of your needle with no problem at all. As you can see, I've got my little paper here, and I'm gonna just see how it's right here in the crease. So I'm going to go ahead, and I used a ruler for this, so everything's really straight. So this spot is going to be the same as this spot, right? So now I'm just going to go ahead and mark. Let me get this in the middle here. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I'm just going to go ahead and mark each spot. And I'm marking it because that's where I'm going to put a hole with my awl. All right, move that away, and there's our 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, a little note to share with you is that when you are when you're deciding where you want your holes to be, make sure these holes are not too close to the edge because you don't want your paper to tear. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and use our awl, and we are going to make our holes. Some people use equipment to make their holes, but I don't. What I do is I hold my book, and then I put my fingers on either side of this just to give it some support, and I put my awl where my dot was, and then I just push it through, and you can see how quickly that went through. Very easy, and just no problem. So we're going to do all 5 of them. When you put your holes in, hold your awl straight so that it comes through the holes straight. All right, so there we go. All 5 are done. If this was a one signature book, I could literally put the cover and the signature and have done the holes and everything all at the same time. But this is a little bit of a more complex situation than that, which is why I created this little cheat sheet. We put our holes in the signature, and now we're going to go ahead and put our holes in the spine of the book. I'm going to use this just to hold the paper steady, and I'm not going to poke all the holes at once. And I know that seems weird. You would think that I would go ahead and do them all at once, but because this is fabric and the fabric could shift just the littlest bit, I won't be able to see where those holes are. So the way I'm going to do it makes sense to me. It might not make sense to you, but to me it makes the process less of a struggle with using fabric and stuff like that, because this can get complicated, like I said. So let's go ahead and start. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a hole right here in the center piece. And I'm holding it just like I do my signature, and you can see the needle come right through. Hopefully you saw that. It's right here. And I can't tell if my camera blurred out or not. Again, fabrics can shift, and so I'm going to make this hole big, and I'm going to hope that it doesn't shift on me. So I'm going to go ahead and do all 5. And I've got my clothespin there to keep the paper from shifting. So far so good. I can see the holes. Everything seems to be going well. Now let's do this one. This is something that you definitely want to take your time on. Don't be in a hurry. Do this when you have the time to not be interrupted and not be in a hurry, because you don't want to be stressed out. You want to be relaxed while you do it, especially if it's a complicated one like this. If it's a one signature deal, that's really simple, and you don't have to be as worried about it. But when you're doing something like this with the material and all that, you definitely want a low stress situation. All right, we've got our needle and our thread. Whoops, my thread just came out. Okay, we've got that threaded back together. And now I'm going to put my signature on. Oops. I'm going to have to get my paper out of the way. Going to have to get my little cheat sheet out of the way. Now, you know what I think I'll do, guys, before I move forward anymore? I'm going to grab a nice blue marker, and I'm going to mark these holes. Just in case the hole closes up a little bit, at least I'll be able to see it and I'll know exactly where I'm supposed to put this needle. So I'm going to put the needle in through my center signature, as you can see, and then I'm going to go right straight for the center signature in the spine. And I'm going to push the needle through, and I was very fortunate. It went right through. My holes lined up very nicely. I'm thrilled about that. The rest of it might not go as smoothly, but we will see. So you can see I'm pulling the thread through now. All right, friends, here's where it can get tricky, especially because we've got all this material and stuff to work with. I've got to go ahead and get my needle into the second hole. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this down. And I want to be able to see the second hole, so I'm just going to move this over and see if I can get my needle to pop up through. And I'm just feeling around a little bit. All right, I do not feel it, so let me look here. Okay, I've got it in, so I just need to find it here. I put a little pressure down so I could feel where my needle was, and this is not a sharp needle, so there was no danger in doing that. And I could feel that I was close, so I just put a little more pressure, and it did come up through the fabric, and I don't know if you guys can see it, but I can see it. So now I'm gonna move my signature back over. Let me find the center of it first though. Okay. Got the center, and don't worry about that I pulled that. We're going to straighten all that up in just a second. So now I'm going to kind of put the signature right on top of it, and look, there's the needle. Now I'm going to push that through, and we have success. Now I'm going to pull this, and there we go. Very nice. Now we're going to go up here to the third one. Okay, I've got it pushed through here. Now I'm going to find the hole, which is right here. So I'm really glad that I marked it with the marker. I think that made it easier for me to spot it. And now we just need to get it through the fabric, and look, it popped right through. So there we go. We're going to pull that. There's a lot of fabric that I used, and I used some, I don't know if you guys call it bunting or whatever, but there's like that cushy foamy stuff. So I'm working through a lot of fabric and stuff. All right, so we got it. We've got our center, and then we have these, and now I need to get down to these. All right, so similar to what you would do with a 3-hole is I have to go back through here, and then I'm going to come down here. So the one thing you want to make sure that you're careful of when you do that is you do not want to pierce this thread when you're coming back through. All right, so we're going to try to go back through. I can lift up on this and see if I'm coming through. Yep, it's coming through. Very nice, very nice. Now I'm going to go through my signature, but without piercing that thread. There we go, it came right through. So guys, this is actually going pretty smooth so far, knock on wood. That's why, you know, I stress take your time. Take your time. Just block some time aside that you can do this without being in a hurry, because until you get the hang of it, it can be a little bit wild. All right, friends, now we're gonna go down to this hole. Now it went through, guys, okay, and I had a hard time finding the hole in the fabric, but I did find it. That's one thing I really like about marking things with, again, on a complicated cover like this, marking things with the with this little paper, because everything was exact. You know, the holes were exact, and so that does make it easier. So now we're going to come in through this hole, but starting from the outside. I'm going to turn this a little bit. All right, now we are going to go in this hole, which is not that visible, but it does feel like the right spot. Let me see, let me feel with my finger. Going back in from this side is always the hardest, but I'm pretty sure that's the right spot. So I'm putting a little pressure just so I can feel where the end of that needle is. Again, my needle is not sharp, so it's you know, I'm not going to get hurt by doing that. So I'm in, but I can't find the hole, and this happened to me on the other one, so let me just take a second to find it. Oh, I think I found it. Okay, I feel it. I'm close, guys. There it goes. I'm going to put a little pressure with my thumb, not too much though. There it is. All right, and it popped right through. So it just took a second. I just had to be patient with it and keep putting some pressure. Now we're going to go ahead and go through our signature. Okay. Okay, and now we're going to go back through this hole, and again, we're just going to be mindful not to pierce the thread. The thread is pretty taut, so I don't feel that that's going to be a problem, but it is something we have to be aware of. And going back through might not be so easy. Let me see. Let me get back through here and then find the hole. Okay, I'm close to it. All right. There we go. I got to poke through the material. There we go. Okay, and I'm pulling it through. We want to give it a tug, nice gentle tug, just to make sure everything's tight. What you don't want is you don't want a loose signature. Like this is a little bit loose, so I'm going to pull on this one now. Yeah, we want it tight because you don't want your pages flapping around. All right, so you can see this looks almost done. Let's go ahead and close the book a little bit. And you can see here is our needle and thread, and here is our spine. Hopefully we're focused. I'm hoping you can see it. There we go. So you can see we need to get this through the middle, and again, without poking the other piece of thread. So we're going to gently try to get this. It's always a little more difficult coming from this side, but I'm going to be patient. I'm going to see, even though everything's pretty tight, I'm going to see if I can just see that needle coming through. What I want to share with you about that is that when it comes up, you want your thread to be on the opposite side of your first, of this piece. If for some reason it comes up over here, just take your thread out of the needle, and then you can, use your needle even to go underneath here and grab it and pull it, okay? So it's not a big deal, but you just want a piece of thread on either side of this, okay? Now what we're gonna do before we do anything else is we're gonna gently tug at it, because we want to make sure that these are tight. See how loose that is? We don't want that. I'm gonna hold this tight, and I'm gonna check on the outside spine. This one is just a little bit loose, so I'm just gonna do a little bit more tugging. These feel good. Yep, that feels good. Now what we do is we tie a square knot, and it's left over right and then right over left. Then the last thing you're gonna do is you're gonna take something, you can use a bone folder, you can use, sometimes I use my needle nose pliers that I have for jewelry. In this case, I'm just gonna use the needle from Creating the Signature. I'm just gonna press the waxes together, and it'll really help to hold the wax thread. It won't come untied. Now I would normally leave these long and put gems or dangles on them, but since this is actually going to become a pocket, I can trim these up. All right, so our first signature is in. I can take our clips off, and I'll just show it to you real quick. Of course, there's no ephemera in it right now, but it's all sewn into the book, and look at that. And of course, this is going to get glued together now. So isn't that nice? All sewn in. So I'm going to do that 2 more times. You don't need to see me do it again, of course, but I will come back and show it to you once I have the other two sewn in. Actually, guys, before I show you it all done, I want to show you another thing. So I created this for a reason. You can see that I have the first signature done, and I want to make sure I space everything properly. So what I'm going to do is I take these. Now, guys, not everybody does this. I'm just showing you how I do it and how I stay organized while I'm trying to, you know, put these signatures in, because again, when it's in a big book like this, it can be a little bit more complicated. So I try to do it so that I don't mess anything up and have to redo it. So I folded this over. So basically this is where these would be. And just to make sure, yep, so that's perfect. So now I'm going to go through and I will poke the holes in these. And I'll make sure, see, I've got this lined up right here where the other ones are. I know they're going to be lined up just the way I want them. So I just wanted to show that. All right, friends, I have got the third signature sewn in. So here's the first one. It starts here and ends here, and you can see how much space is in between. Like I said, it's about an inch and a quarter. And then between the second and third, it's about the same. And then here's the back.
Friends, I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. And as always, thanks for watching. See you soon.